evening to you and welcome to our program presented by the National Commission of Law and Order through the Ministry of Home Affairs. And tonight we're talking prison reforms. I'm Isaiah Chappell. We have a very distinguished panel here to focus on our topic this evening. Of course, when we talk about prison, we must have the Director of Prison, Mr. Dale Erskine, and with him as the Chairman of the Prisons Recruitment Board, Mr. Imtiaz Zafarali, and Mr. Mohandat Gulsaran. He's the Chairman of the Prison Service Training Board. And probably a very important board is that of the Prison Sentence Management Board. And Captain Jerry Govaya is here. He's not flying tonight. We're talking about the prison now. A very good evening to you, gentlemen, and welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you.
I think we should start with Dale. You have a Herculean task of managing over 2,000 persons, and for various reasons, they're housed by you, so to speak.
Correct.
So your opening remarks.
I thank you, Isaiah, for the opportunity to be here this evening, myself and some colleagues who I consider part of the prison system at this point in time. Apart from being Director of Prisons, I'm a member of the NCLO, and we thought it necessary that we should, speak a bit with prison reforms, because there's a lot of things happening within the prisons that is not known by the community. And, crime and security is a very important agenda in any government around the world. So we decided to focus on prison reform on this particular evening. I want to start first with saying that in 2008-2009, the turbulence in the criminal environment was, causing much concern, not just to the government and the people of Guyana. And there was this reform in the justice sector, and this involves the prison department. So in order to modernize the prison in keeping with the judiciary, the police force, and the DPP office, the fourth pillar, which being the prison service, was incorporated to change the way prison operates in Guyana. In this manner, we expect that we want to modernize the prison system in keeping the justice sector to meet the needs of the society, both security and administratively, in a humane manner. So there's a lot of discussion in terms of prison reform. I know from that strategic plan, there were 8 pillars, so to speak, 8 important pillars, which set the platform for us to operate and to develop. And the result of that platform, you'll see these 3 gentlemen sitting here with me. One of the first platform they had, one of the first pillars, was the prison reform. The modernization of the prison infrastructure. This involves the buildings we have, the IT sector we have, the classification of inmates. If you pass Dublin Street right now, you would see the blocking off of the road, where we started knocking down one of the oldest prisons, the big prison, and we're modernizing it. Last year we have completed one more now this year also. We intend to do Lusignan prison. Actually, a new building at Lusignan prison to meet the needs of society. It can be much bigger, much larger prisons, which allow us to contain our prisons in a very secure manner. Then we had another pillar which involved the penal legislation, modernizing the penal legislation. And that's important for us because if we need to change the prison system, we need to look at our legislation. It means restructuring the Guyana Prison Service. You'd have seen quite recently there's a cabinet approval for the change in the Guyana Prison Service to the Guyana Prison Service Correctional Service. So all those things are in keeping with the modernization of the Guyana Prison Service. The third pillar for modernization was the enhancement of human resource capacity. This manner, we're not just looking in terms of the quality of staff we have, looking in terms of the whole strategic plan in terms of our human resource management, the protocols that involve how we select staff, how we train staff to meet the needs of a current business system. Mr. Monad Gulsaran has a role to play in this aspect in terms of training, and Mr. Imtiaz Zafarali as the Chairman of the Recruitment Board. He has a role to ensure that we select the best possible officers to the system. So he has an important role in terms of ensuring we recruit the right type of person in the Guyana Prison Service. We want to be the fourth pillar. Deals with the corporate enterprises. Prison have a very trapped labor force.
very strong potential to really engage our prisoners. So we wanted to ensure that we could use these individuals in a very productive manner, looking the whole way we could capitalize on all the activity you have in the prison system to ensure the inmates are productively employed, they make money for revenue for government, and they themselves will benefit from those experiences within the prison. We talk about building new trade shops, having very sophisticated equipment to ensure we can maximize the labor for prison. Then we had the fourth one in terms of interagency cooperation, very important pillar. Let's talk about dealing with the criminal justice system, where there's interaction with the criminal justice system, where we'll have a close, rounded relationship with the police, the judiciary, the DPP. We want to reduce the remand population. Right now, the remand population is about 40% of our total population. So we want to reduce that considerably through overcrowding. Recently, we had discussion with the Chancellor and trying to see how well we could address those persons who are there for quite a long time, those persons who are mentally insane, so that we can be able to deal with them in a very humane way and a very legal way. Then we have the sixth one is the retraining activities. How we retrain our prisoners. I mean, that's the most important aspect of it, because prisons and recidivism, and we were just talking earlier, most countries around the world has a very high recidivism rate. And we want to ensure that our practices within the prison so modern that we can be able to reduce recidivism. Currently, we're about 33%. Person will be there for over 4 times. And for our plan, we want to reduce that about 15% over the next 5 years. And here again, the chairman of the board, Mr. Jerry Gavallo, has an important role in this aspect of ensuring the sentence management board set up all the proper protocols from the very beginning of a man coming to sentence. We can audit his deficiencies, whether it's education, whether it's literacy, technical, whether it's cultural, whatever it is. So his role is very important in ensuring that we manage this prisoner sentence, that they can return to society as very useful citizens. So Mr. Gavallo has a very important role as the chairman for the Sentence Management Board to help us to reform and ensure our prisoners reintegrate properly, because that's the most important thing, the proper reintegration of those prisoners when they should discharge from prison. The seventh one is building public confidence and trust. This is very important. I mean, a lot of persons have a very negative view of the prison system. I think because they don't know what happens behind the 4 walls. And we need to let the public know what happens behind the 4 walls. So we want to be more open, ensure people have access to the prison in terms of seeing what goes on, or public relations unit to be able to market and sell the prison service. Because it's important, the guys got to return to society. The families must feel comfortable and confident that when we send it back an individual, he comes back with a reformed thinking. So we need to ensure the public knows what happens behind the 4 walls of the prison. So this whole session here tonight, is an effort as a step to bring the prison out in the public. And 8th pillar had to do with the health care. And the prison health is very important in prisons. We want to have a comprehensive healthcare system for inmates and officers. There's a very close environment, like contagious disease, TB, which is just rampant around the world, other infectious disease we need to control, hypertension, diabetes, those things are prevalent among the public, and definitely be prevalent among the inmate population. We look at our occupational health and safety. Our prisoners coming into the institution must also be exposed to a very safe environment. You don't want them, having them working in an unsafe environment. So those 8 pillars is expected to see a transformation in this prison service in a way. We already started with a number of things, and I'm quite sure as we go along and we speak, we get to know some of the things we're doing currently to see the transformation of the prison system from maybe a retributive system to one that's more rehabilitative in nature, and giving us more opportunity to ensure our prisoners return to society as a useful citizen.
Very tall challenges, I should say. 8 pillars, probably you can look at them, 8 challenges with their own interrelated. And I think this is where, to meet a challenge, the Prisoners Recruitment Board will have to come in. So let's hear the opening remarks of Mr. Imtiaz Afarali.
Thank you very much. And basically the overview is to give the offenders a second chance. Because one of the problems we have in society is that when the offenders are finished serving their time and they go back to society, they don't get a job. You know, to get work back into the society, as the director was saying, that people look with them like a scorn. And people say, oh, you went to prison, therefore you're not marketable anymore. So the first thing we want to do is to give them a chance to get employment. Secondly, to reunite them with their families, because they have to return back to their families. We don't have any halfway house in Guyana like United States of America or the other models of the prison service. And therefore, they'll have to reintegrate with their families. And we want to maintain that relationship. I mean, everybody sometimes, time and again, we make mistakes. Some of us, some people end up in the prisons, and some people stay in society. And finally, we want them to reintegrate with the society itself, to see, well, okay, I made my mistake, I've served my time, I'm here back in the society, and I can be willing to contribute back to the society. And we can able to erase this. So the bottom line in the recruitment is that we have to recruit the staff that will generally have this understanding. Years ago, when you recruit a staff to the Guyana Prison Service, now Guyana Prison and Correction Facilities, they only had two basic jobs. One is custodian, which means that they only had the job of keeping the prisoners. And second, they had the job of escort the prison. Now we want to open this challenge and say, listen, in addition to these two responsibilities, you have responsibility to reorient the prisoners and the offenders that come, that they can able to gain something while they're in prison. And my good friend Mr. Golsaran will touch on the training and the amount of different training that we have as compared to the past years. But for me, as the chairman of the recruitment board, we have to look at individuals who is willing to join with us in terms of reorienting the prisoners, so that when they come back, they don't see themselves coming back to the prison. They see themselves to get a job, they see themselves to be with their family, they see themselves to contribute back to society.
Training is certainly as important. The Guyana Prison Service Training Board, and of course the chairman is Mr. Mohandat Gosram. Your opening remarks.
Thank you, Isaiah. The training board is responsible for training at two-tier levels. One for the officers within the prison service, and the other for the inmates. At the officers level, there are designed programs already to upgrade the skills of these officers within the service. The service is offered at 5 locations across the country, and the officers, they are not uniform in the level of training that they have. We design courses that will ensure that at each level we have a common course, common objective, so that all will be trained to deliver a particular service. One is to ensure that they respect the rights of the inmates, that they execute their job in an efficient and professional way, that they adhere to the SOPs within the prison service, among others. At the level of the inmates, we have 3 levels of courses. One, having screened the inmates, we found that some of them lack basic literacy. So we have a program to deal with that, to provide some basic primary education. We also have training for early secondary, maybe up to 3rd form, as a second level of training. And the 3rd level is where we can take some of the inmates, those with the capability, the willingness, right on to CXC level. So we are providing training for all 3 levels, and we are recruiting specialists from civil society to provide the training for the inmates. We are hoping that we can have a uniform program across the centers. So right now we are doing a curriculum reform so that we streamline the curriculum that we are offering to the inmates right across the country, and a program that will bring the trainers to receive training. So the trainers would receive training to deliver the courses, and that is going on. The Prison and Correctional Services, we have provided a draft memorandum of understanding to be worked out with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Home Affairs, that if collaboratively we can use existing training institution within the Ministry of Education for the purpose of certification, it will be easier for a person seeking a job, having obtained certification, say, from GTI, alongside with the Prison Service and Correctional Training Institute is a proposed name we are putting, so that when they go out with this certificate to seek a job, it would be of acceptable level. The stigma that was mentioned by my colleague here, we hope over time we will remove that. In addition to that, we are seeking to have the programs offered by the Prison Service and Prison and Correctional Service to be accredited. So our first step is we are approaching the National Accreditation Council. First thing is to have the institution formally register as a training institution. So with these initiatives, we are hoping that within the next year or so to really make a dent on the quality of training program we are offering, so that the public will embrace the training certification that we would provide.
Some important components in this whole strategy of reintegrating the inmates into society. It calls for a lot of management, and this is where the chairman of the Prison Sentence Management Board comes in, I should think.
Yes.
Captain Jerry Duvaya, your opening remarks.
Well, it's interesting that all the things, this whole prison reform, modernization that is happening, needs public confidence. And you cannot as well achieve any of this if you have violations of human rights and the conditions in which prisons are held and so on. And I think the Prison Sentence Management Board was a good move to basically, at the end of setting up of the training board and the recruitment board and the visiting committees, at the end of all of that, you have the Sentence Management Board, which was formed by co-opting people from civil society and other organizations to form this board, because this is a very important board. So, for example, I was nominated from the Private Sector Commission to sit on this board, and then I was elected by the members of the board to be the chairman of this board. So I was not appointed to this board. This was, and so my involvement in this came as part of the strategy to build public confidence. I'll tell you what I mean. When I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, maybe 6-7 years ago, I met with some university guy and students, and they told me, they said, Captain Gavaya, you go to the prisons and it's terrible. And you should go and visit. And I actually went and visited the prison, took a private sector team to visit the prisons. And I left the prisons not being very happy, I must tell you that. And so when when the private sector asked me to sit on this board for the sentence management, and I started this 2 years ago, it was an eye-opener for me. It's important we understand when a person goes to prison, it's not the end of their life. A lot of times people go to prison and you forget that these people will come out of prison and they'll be in our church, they'll be in our schools, they'll be in our supermarkets with us. And so we need, and I'm very, very happy with the direction it's going, we need to have this, a strategy on where we will help reform and reintegrate and prepare the prisoners, prepare people going to prison to come back into society and to be productive citizens. So when I became the chairman and was elected as part of this board, one of the first things I wanted to do was to go and visit these prisons to look at the general conditions. That's 2 years ago. And I will tell you, I went and I still was not very happy, but I could have seen the work being done. I could have seen, for example, there's a lot of talk about overcrowding in the prisons, in the Georgetown prisons. And we recognized a lot of that was being done because of the remand prisoners that was being kept in Georgetown prisons. But some of the physical conditions were of concern to me. We went to the Lausanne prison, we saw a lot of issues there as well. And we started, before we even started talk about managing the sentence of people in the prisons, we wanted to deal with the issue of the human rights, the issue of ensuring that the prisoners, that the vexing issues, the issues that will prevent the prisoners from taking up the training, because if they're unhappy and they're uncomfortable and being treated badly by the prison staff, this would not be happening, the training. And so we started to have a monthly meeting where the entire prison administration, all the heads of prisons will come to the board, and we had a reporting system, and we started a process of looking at how do we improve the standard in the prisons. How do we make sure the prison officers were treating the prisoners in a humane fashion? The men that he was employing and screening that come in, that how do we do that? And I want to say to you that I'm very, very pleased. In the last 2 years, I have seen tremendous improvement both to the way the prisons are treated and in terms of the physical institution that is and infrastructure that's happening in the prisons. You went to the Mazruni prison, or you went to the one in New Amsterdam or Lausanne prison, and you're going to see a different prison than it was 2 or 3 years ago. And every day it's improving. So our task basically is, from the time a person is committed to prison, we do what is called an entry poll. So we meet with the prisoner, we interview the prisoner, and we will fill up a form basically dealing with all of the prisoners, all the prison qualities, his education, what he wants to do, his aspirations, and so on. And having done that, then we would work with the prison training board to ensure that this person is in prison for 5 years. How do we occupy that prisoner in a productive manner for the 5 years that he's there? And basically that is what we've been doing. We have been working with the training board as well to ensure, and the prison authority, to ensure that when the time comes and the prisoner is leaving, that we are going to do an exit poll in the prisoner, but more particularly we are also going to issue accreditation certificates. One to do with content of character, and the other one to do with content of intellect and technical training. So that if a prisoner presents himself for employment and he produces a certificate, it is not going to be just a cosmetic certificate, it's going to be one where the prisoner will earn it. And I think we've gone a far way. And throughout the prison system now, you go there, the food, the meals in the prison have been tremendously improved. I've been going there, I've been eating the food myself, and but I've been told that they only cook the good food when I come to the prisons. So I actually pay surprise visits to the prisons. I would go there at a moment's notice, and I will sit there in the kitchen and I would eat the food. And I am very, very pleased with what I'm seeing. The new prison blocks that is happening, and every day they are working now to put the prisons in uniform, because for us, we need to create the enabling environment for people to learn, people to be willing to learn. And I think I'm very, very pleased with the work I'm seeing in the prison system. Very, very pleased with it.
A lot of resources. Now, the doubters might say, these people would have done harm to society, and yet we are injecting all these resources into it, and society has to stand it. How do we respond to that?
I don't believe that sensible people will say things like that, because, and I think you made the point, people make mistakes. Yeah. And sure enough, there are good people and there are bad people and so on in society. But our task must be always to give people a second chance. We must work with them, we must help reform them. Nothing gives us the right to treat another human being and violate the other human being's human rights. And nothing gives us the right to deny them an opportunity to be forgiven and to be given another chance in life.
That's just a follow-up quick at Jerry's. It's much more costly not to reform them.
But the thing is, research has shown that with all these resources going in, 80% of them are back to square one, so to speak.
I think that the average now is about 50 or so. In terms of person who return to prison and recidivism, maybe about 34, 35%. Many issues are now really with the prison system, you know. Many issues when they go back to society. The stigma, the family receiving them, these issues really impact on their lives. We could prepare a man onto the prison gate. That's why the sentence management level, we're trying to go beyond the prison gate, extend, follow the man into a job, into his home.
And this is the point. You see, when the man leaves the prison, if he's not allowed to get a job, and this is where I come in, but like I said to the director, I didn't want to approach my colleagues in the private sector yet until I could be sure that the things that we are doing have really started to show results. I am very comfortable where I sit now to now plan a visit with my private sector colleagues to say, let us go and visit the prisons. Let us see what is happening, because the private sector got to be able to hire prisoners coming out, and we need to have the confidence in the system, because that is what will do it. If we do all this work and then society still are not giving them the second chance, but society got to be able to trust us that when we say here is a certificate, that this person that really earned the certificate, that is the content of his character justifies it, the content of his intellect and technical skills justify it. And society got to become part of this. Like he's saying, if you don't do it, it becomes a lot more expensive. But more particularly for me, it is a human issue. It is that we must give our citizens and human beings, period, whoever in our prisons, we must treat them with respect and dignity, while they must have some purity. Obviously, already you're taking away their freedoms. We don't need to take away their human dignity.
Now, a disturbing factor is nearly 3/4 of the 2,000 prisoners that we have in our system, the prison system, are young people.
Well, I guess it's a trend throughout the world where our younger population is getting more involved in crime. Our role is to steer them away, not when they go to prison, even before they go to prison. So the school system, all the socializing agents got to do the work to steer them away, or the youths at risk, those in poverty. Yeah. We got a lot of persons who are mentally ill that commit crime. So there has to be a holistic approach to really prevent the youth from getting into crime. But as long as we meet the system, the prison system, our role is to return them. I'm quite sure that our activities right now will give us a better opportunity to restore those individuals, and that's where the correctional aspect come in. And I think we have a good chance of restoring those young people into good. I mean, they're young, they're strong, they're bright, they're brilliant. You just have to give them the skills to return to society as useful citizens.
The good thing about the system is that you can measure it, because now after we finish the entry polls, we can now measure the progress we are making, because we know what is the plan, what is the strategy for this person for the time in prison, and we can actually measure what is happening with their progress. And that is why it is so important that he give us the right staff. We extract the information from the prisoner and then design with the training board a plan, a strategy forward, how do we reform and train them, and then we can measure that.
The issue with the young people in prison is to a large extent a failure of the education system for them. For them, the education system has failed them, because from the audit that we're getting, quite a number of them have not completed primary education. Plenty of them have not completed halfway through their secondary education. This program is to give them some hope that through this training and education program, there's a second chance.
Yes.
Right? So here is it. We are putting before you a training program that we determine that could be of help to you. All we are asking you for your willingness to participate and complete the program.
You're watching the monthly program of the National Commission on Law and Order through the Ministry of Home Affairs, and tonight we're talking prison reform. You can join us and join the conversation by dialing 225-8025 or 226-2691. The numbers will be on the screen, so you're free to join us in our discussion. And what about some of the prisoners becoming officers themselves?
I don't think that's quite possible for them to be officers, but we can use them for other purposes. And we have ex-prisoners who are involved in like mechanic, doing craft work, doing technical work within the prison. We employ them back, in terms of these things, hire them. We have prisoners who learn tailoring within the prison. And when they leave the prison, we give them jobs, subcontract for them to sew. So they're sustained by activities that, from an economical point of view. But it cannot be a prison officer, so to speak.
But I'll tell you what they could be. The tourism sector is a sector in Ghana that need a lot of human resources in terms of service staff, in terms of housekeepers, in terms of chefs and barmen. And so we are actually talking the Carnegie School of Home Economics at the moment. We are also talking about setting up entrepreneurial training, so to teach people as well how not only to look for a job, but how to create your own jobs. And so that is also happening at the moment. We are working with the Otterlock Business School. They have agreed to help provide that training free of cost. I must give you the information on it, so that we could actually have this training running in the prisons to teach from that academic level how to become and create your own jobs.
We have a caller on the line. A very good evening to you and welcome to our program.
Hi, good evening to you.
Yes, you're on the air.
First of all, I just want to take this opportunity to thank these gentlemen for taking the time out from their busy schedule, to address situations such as this affect our society today. But in a general sense, I call to say on the air, I've seen great strides in the media that both Mr. Orskine, through his position as director of prisons, has taken in the in the field of prison reform. But I just want to say tonight that I happen to have a family member in there in prison right now, and I wanted to bring it to the attention of Mr. Govaya right now. If anything has been done in terms of parole for prisoners, and what is the criteria for them to be granted it, if you can address that, please.
Parole represents serving your time in the community. A prisoner must serve 1/3 of his sentence before he's considered for parole. It means anybody who is not serving 2 years and above could apply for parole. Now, parole means that a man will have to learn a skill. His attitude, he has to show penitence for the crime he has committed. He has learned a skill, and he has convinced the administration that he's fit to return to society on supervision. He makes an application to the prison administration. We send it to the chairman of the parole board, and they will peruse it. They will visit the home, see where he's living, where he's going back to. We will submit a report to the parole board saying about his man's condition, his health standard, his academic standards, his skills, and then a consideration will be made by the board. Very diligent consideration. Then it's sent it to the minister for approval.
Sorry, I just want to say also, now there are prisoners who are allowed to go on the road and work and earn an income and actually save something to come back into society. There are also some prisoners who, well, I guess wouldn't be allowed to go outside but be working actually for the prison system in various capacities. Is that the same thing, the same criteria is used for both of them, regardless if they work on the road or are in prison?
Correct.
Okay.
Any prisoner, any convicted prisoner. So when he's working enough for some reason, he will be considered. His application is not denied in any way. It has to go to the board. And our record of parole in Guyana is excellent. I think since 1992, only 2 persons have been recalled so far. And both were recalled because they violated not attending the probation welfare report.
In the same breath, thank you so much, Mr. Orskine. In the same breath, is there a stringent parole board right now whereby when the prisoner is released back into society, there is a stringent message in place that, there's an oversight that look after them, that they have to
yes, there's a stringent, and there's a crux of the parole
Okay.
supervision. As a matter of fact, parolee will have to have a letter from someone in society vouching for him, apart from the family member. Some other reputable member of society will have to write a testimony that they're willing to look over and see that he's doing the right thing. Then you have the probation welfare department who supervise prisoners, and the secretary of the parole board, who will normally make periodical visits to ensure that you're complying with the orders and instructions of the parole board.
I think what's important too is that the work, for example, that is happening at the Prison Sentence Management Board is also, and this is all new now coming together, will help the parole board to make their decisions as well, based on on what is happening with the training, how the prisoner is complying with the reform process. So all those things are going to now help inform the parole board whether to approve parole or not. It's one of the new criteria.
Okay, then, thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you all for your time, gentlemen.
We have another caller on the line. Let's see, Bill. This person is off. Now, you know, a lot of people have this idea, as long as you go to prison, you might be violent and things like that. What's the story, however, in the makeup of the prison, in terms of the kind of crimes that are committed?
Well, we know in the prisons are a microcosm of the society. So whatever you see outside will replicate itself inside. But most of the prisoners tend to respond to rules and regulation, tend to respond to the authority base of your, because we're a rule-based organization. The fact your freedom is taken away from you, the fact we have the authority in this way over you, we are responding in a very, very safe way. We have female officers who walk the yard, who supervise inmates, and there has not been a violent, any real violent incident in the yard. So it shows that prisons generally obey the rules. There are ways when they can always go between. Because remember, they live in a human environment, men have needs, and they'll find ways and means to get contraband within the prison. But generally, there's a tendency wanting to conduct themselves. Majority of the inmates, to me, there's a tendency to want to follow the rules and regulations. There are few who will want to, a percentage of that population will want to violate. And those are the guys we have to be very stringent with.
We have another caller on the line. A very good evening to you and welcome to our program.
Yes, and good night. I'd like to ask Mr. Jerry Guvayo to, I've been excited, I've been listening to the program a while. I'm a preacher and also a professional sales representative, which I see that I can make some contribution as in to help assist or motivate some of the prisoners or the prisoners on a part of taking on the society when they would have leave there. But I would like to know what number I maybe can contact it, Mr. Guvayo, and then I can able to make whatever necessary arrangement.
If they could call me afterwards, and we will.
On the same number?
Yes. Call back here, we'll give it the number.
Good.
Okay, thanks so much for coming through. Now, in terms of...
Just to follow up on your question that you asked, I think what is being done at the prison now, we have the regular service on Sunday by the Christians. We have the Friday prayers conducted by the Muslims. And what we found that when these individuals come to the mosque, for the Friday prayers, or even the Sunday services, they have a more inclined position of redemption. And they ask for forgiveness from the Creator, and they try to keep more closer to the Creator. So much so that when we go, and I personally, when I visit the mosque, and I see some of them, they stop at the mosque and they tell me, you know what, I came off the road, and now I'm directly interrelated with God Almighty, and I'm attending the church regularly. I attend the mosque regularly, and that is happy for that's good news for us, because here's an ex-individual or a couple of individuals who decide to change the type of life that they have, and they decide to return to the Creator, and they pray regularly and everything. So we're happy about that.
Well, we have another caller on the line. Both of them are off. Anyway, now, in terms of the young people, what kinds of crimes do they go in for? I mean, it's a large percentage, 71.3%, as you pointed out.
Most of them, violent offenses, simple larceny, robbery, murder, drugs, So they actually represent a good a good size of the crime that will be committed by adult inmates. I guess, like Mr. Goswan said, the society has failed some of them in terms of the education system, and some turn to crime. Maybe they probably bad role models, bad examples, to find themselves in prison. Many of them, like Jerry said, just don't know themselves.
All right, we have another call online. A very good evening to you. Welcome to our program.
I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be a part of this program and the initiative of being able to listen to Mr. Erskine and the other persons representing inmates. But I really want to direct this question to Mr. Erskine. Since the previous caller would have spoken about the earnings inmates would have made over a period of time after they have been working in the system and stuff, I think being an ex-prisoner, Mr. Fernand speaking on the line, so you know who's the person. I really wanted to know if the system still requires 2/3 of that earning from inmates. And looking at this program now, if there going to ever be any changes in terms of the law to reflect the inmates receiving more of that amount that they would have earned instead of 2/3 going to the administration, and they would have received 1/3 if the prisoner would get more in the case of them relocating to society and being able to start a family. I'm grateful. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Ms. Finance.
I think this is one of the things we look at right now, to look back at the entire prison system, where prisoners normally obtain 1/3 of the earnings. 2/3 of that go into a special fund for prisoners. The fund for that is used for almost anything in terms just for prisoners. They need television sets. If a man die and you don't have a family, that fund is used to bury that individual. People want scan, MRI scan and all these things, and we can't wait sometimes for the money to come from government. So we have to do it immediately. So we use those money just for prisoners' welfare. I think the way we're going right now, very well. I don't think it's not an inflexible position. And I'm sure as we sit down and we discuss these issues in a more meaningful way, we could very well see prisoners get a bigger share of that particular money.
Actually, I want to tell Mr. Orson, I will tell you that for me, that was one of my pet subjects. And I've actually asked him to review it because for me, I wanted to ensure, first of all, that prisoners were given equal pay for equal work across the prison system. And particularly because it's a vexing issue. And as I toured the prisons, I was told many times that a lot of the prisoners feel that the system is not fair to them, which is we want to remove as much of the vexing issues as we could have, and I think this is one of the issues, and I'm glad it was raised because it is something we are looking at.
Well, we have another caller line. We are very busy this evening. Is off. A very good evening to you, and welcome to our program.
Good evening.
Yes, you're on the air.
Yes. Good evening to you and the panel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have a hell of a job. I don't envy you at all. But in my opinion, I think the magistracy has a lot to do with part of the overcrowding that is facing the prisons. Why I say so, because people being sentenced for just hitting another person out in the public instead of being fined. And I think your problem would start from the magistracy. So I think between you and your guests, one should make some form of representation to the judiciary to re-examine those prisoners, those people who would become prisoners that would want to send to prison for committing meager or minor offenses, in that you're faced with such an uphill task of overcrowding. The second thing is that with respect to the program that you have of rehabilitation, in my opinion, I would think it would be wise, like I heard Mr. Kavaya said he hasn't approached his other colleagues in the private sector yet. But I don't know why. I think he should start programming them so that when the time comes when he is satisfied with the outcome of the programs that are currently going on, his job would not be so hard to convince his colleagues to actually take the prisoners on board. I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but I think he should prepare
Well, I just want to say to you that one of the reasons that I am here is because I was sent by the private sector. And the point I'm making and that I made was that I wanted to ensure that we have something to show the private sector. And I agree with you. And so, in fact, this year, 2 years after we started, I'm very, very pleased with where we are. And we are now starting to roll out that strategy where we're going to be meeting with the families of prisoners. We are meeting with the private sector. We're going to be doing more prisons visits. And the issue with the overcrowding, it is, you're right, we are in fact meeting with the judiciary on a regular basis. Now we are talking about alternate sentencing and so on. So, and I appreciate your point. There's a lot of work that's going on. I think people need to be just reassured, though, that the matters are being addressed. But we don't have all the answers, and so people must feel free to contact us with any ideas they have, because I think this is a national issue. This is a Guyana issue, and we need to solve it together.
Okay, thank you so
You're
much.
absolutely correct. But the thing about it is that the penal system is one of correction. And yes, you're going to be faced with people from all walks of life.
Yes.
Is there a program whereby, let's say, for example, the retired social workers who would have passed through various aspects of social work, are these services being used with respect to helping the inmates, apart from the churches, as was just mentioned, your other colleague? What about the other aspect where the social workers are able to sit by virtue of their training that the prison officer would not have at the social worker level, or to the extent of the social worker to assist that prison officer with the management of certain inmates?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for coming through, but you will take the answer and at the same time make your closing remark.
Okay. We would like the public to know that not only do we employ prison officers, we employ different strata in society. For example, we have social worker, we have nurse aide. Recently, we are happy to announce we have employed a doctor to be in prison now, so that we don't have much escorting to do from the prison to the Georgetown Hospital. We have a doctor with us now. We have plan and maintenance, and we have so many different people. Computer specialists, and Mr. Golzaran can give you the whole list, 50-something subjects being earmarked. We cannot teach all at the same time, but we have a very good vision. And in closing, for my closing remark, I am very optimistic that we can make these offenders some marketable when they leave the prison, providing, as Captain said, that they are willing to take the opportunity that we are providing for them in the prison, so that when they come out, they can be somebody better than when they came into the prison. And I agree with you, we have a lot of youths in prison, and we are trying to utilize their energies and whatever potential they have in terms of developing, so that when they return back to society, they can be a plus in the society. Thank you very much.
Mr. Imtiaz Safrali, he's the chairman of the Prisons Recruitment Board. Now, Mr. Mohandat Gulsaran, he's the chairman of the Guyana Prison Service Training Board.
I would like the public to be assured that the officers within the prison service are well trained to provide care and protection to the inmates, and the programs that we are offering to the inmates, we want the public to be assured that the quality of training offered to them would be of a standard acceptable anywhere in the country.
And Captain Jerry Gavaya, chairman of the Prison Sentence Management Board.
It's a process. It's in transition. It's kind of far away. I meet every month with all of the heads of the particular prisoners with Dale. And I want to tell you, there's a tremendous buy-in from the officers. There's a lot of enthusiasm by the officers. And they take great pride. In fact, they encourage me to keep surprising them, because they take great pride in surprising me. When I go there, that they're really every day they're making an effort, they and the staff to raise the standards. And so I think we've come a far way, and I just want to say to the prison, the issue of public confidence and support to the prison system. start looking at it. Start looking at how we could help, and feel free to call us. Feel free to call us with your ideas. With if you want to help in training, call us. We need all the volunteers we could get, because this is in the interest of Guyana.
And Mr. Dale Erskine, Director of Prisons.
I just want to say, Isaiah, that you've heard the three gentlemen speaking here this evening, and you could be convinced that